world without form and void, and the mouse cursor hovered over the face of the world seed. Okay. And boom. Welcome, everyone, to the Bible Bucket. And in this series, I will be playing Minecraft, and I will be talking about the Bible. Our long-term goal in this channel is to go, and we're going to, obviously we're going to talk about some Bible, we're going to play some Minecraft, but eventually, I would love to get an audience with the ceiling fan of Redeemed Zoomer, because I have a bone to pick. Metaphor, you know what I mean. Not that I have a problem with his general mission or anything, but I do not appreciate how he tells people to leave non-denom churches. I don't appreciate it. I really don't. And we'll get into that. We will get into that. Yes. And to achieve this, if I can remember the buttons, let's see. Nope, that's not it. Yeah, there we go. We are going to achieve this by doing the impossible and building a non-denom church in Minecraft that looks good. It is not a box. It is going to be wonderful. We're going to talk about some Bible, mostly on this channel while I'm doing this building, and we're going to be doing it in survival because I could do it in creative, but that's less fun for me. I like building in survival a little bit more. There's a little bit more challenge there. And it's just, I prefer it. So that's what we're going to do. And we're gonna start out by getting as many resources as possible, and that's gonna be a lot of the gameplay for a while. Maybe I should tell you a little bit why I'm so frustrated with Redeemed Zoomer telling people to leave non-denom churches just flat out right. And first I want to caveat this. I actually like his general mission. I appreciate the desire and the boldness he has to try and take the mainline churches back from liberalism. I think that's wonderful. Keep it up, Zoomer. Honestly, keep it up. You're doing God's work in that sense. So if you're over here thinking, oh, he's a Redeemed Zoomer hater, no, I actually I like the actual the heart of what he's doing. I appreciate that. Absolutely, go ahead, take back the mainline churches. All for it. I don't think we should be telling people to leave non-denom churches. I don't. I know non-denom churches have their problems. I go to a Pentecostal non-denom church. I grew up in Pentecostal non-denominational circles. I know that it's not like a perfect situation. No section of the church is perfect. I do not, however, think that, once again, I don't think that telling people to leave non-denom churches is the right move. I really don't. And one, I think you're not really by asking people to just flat out leave your non-denom churches, you're not gonna get you're not gonna get the kind of help you want. Like if you're trying to get more people to help retake mainline churches, this is, in my opinion, not the way to do it. Really isn't. The people that are going to leave the non-denom churches, if you go and you tell people to leave, if you're not gonna, they're not gonna send their best. If you know what I mean. You're gonna get people who probably don't have the deepest faith. And if you're trying to retake liberal denominations, like, you need people who are really solid, who can stand their ground and really know, that really know what they're doing, what they're talking about. And people who are really solid in their faith and aren't going to waver. But if they're just gonna watch a YouTube video and leave their church, you might not get that. You might get someone who is very, their faith is really young. In that sense, it's very new, very fresh. Nothing against people with fresh faith. Welcome if you're a new believer and watching my video. Probably not a lot of people watching this video. I don't really have many viewers. This is I watched Redeemed Zoomer's video on why non-denom churches are unbiblical, and I decided that I had to start making videos of my own. But that's where we're at right now. They're not going to send their best. You're not going to get the strong believers who are equipped for it. If you want people to help you from the non-denom church, why not, actually, maybe talk to some non-denom church organizations and see if maybe they could train up some people specifically with the task of going and helping, revitalize the mainline churches and bring them back in line with the gospel. Why not? We could do that. We could absolutely do that. We could, and then it would be a mission, then we're in cooperation, but instead, you're telling people to leave potentially, their church community, the group of believers that they've, for some period of time, they've been in communion with, they've been meeting with, they've been, maybe in communion with isn't the right term. What am I trying to say? If you can tell, I'm a little bit unscripted here for this first video as I'm running around trying to find sheep. Wow. This could be a collaborative effort, but instead you're going and telling people to leave their church community. I don't think that's wise, or even in alignment with what Zoomer even teaches, what he says on his channel. He encourages people not to church hop and then tells people to church hop. It doesn't make any sense. So I guess that would be the first reason why I disagree with Redeemed Zoomer's take that people should leave non-denom churches for the main line. I think if you're going to leave a non-denom church for the main line, you should be sent for it. You should actually it's not something you should just wake up and decide to do, because going and trying to breathe life back into a denomination that is in many senses, kind of way off. Protestant, Catholic, or whatever denomination you're going to that needs to return to return to the gospel, I guess, return to biblical truth. If you're going to be going and doing this, you gotta be prepared. You can't just if God's raised you up to do it, then he's going to raise you up into it. He's going to teach you. He's going to get things set up so you're not in over your head. But if you're not called to it, you're gonna wind up in over your head, and you're either going to end up with your faith shaken, or you're going to end up doing something you're going to end up saying something you regret. You're going to cause yourself a lot of difficulty, a lot of stress, and if you're not prepared, it'll probably even be largely fruitless. I don't think it's a task for just anybody. So that's reason one why I disagree. Is you can't send just anybody. You can't just you can't send a fresh recruit to storm the gates of hell. You can't, or not that mainline churches are hell per se. But if we're trying to retake Christian institutions from the enemy, then there's a certain extent to which you almost have to think of it like that. You have to think, we're going into enemy territory. We're facing down with the forces of darkness, and if you're not a strong believer, if you're fresh, if you're new, if you're not well trained, then you're not going to be very effective. So I'd say that's reason one. We got to train people up for that. Can't send just anybody. Reason two that I think it's bad to tell people to leave their churches, to leave non-denom churches for the mainline. To get into it, reason two, I think I don't think non-denom churches are anywhere near as unbiblical as Redeemed Zoomer says they are. Not that he doesn't have any points at all, but I do think it's a bit. Some of the stuff is kind of falls into like nitpick territory. Like I remember watching the video Jurisdiction. That's a really nitpicky argument, to be totally honest. Especially in America, where the mainline denominations kind of all agree. Like as he said, talking about the history of the mainlines in America, they agreed to share jurisdiction. And that was also, a couple hundred years ago? And the world looked, 250 years ago, the world looked very different. I would argue that in today's world, jurisdiction probably just needs to be entirely reworked, in a sense, because just to paint a picture, say you have a town with 5,000 people. Ideally you want to reach as many people as possible. But if you say you have in this town, you have a Methodist church, you have a Presbyterian church, and you have a Baptist church. And each of these churches has maybe 50 people in them. Just wondering. How are these 3 churches with 50 people going to come anywhere near to effectively reaching 5,000? Realistically, even if these churches grow to their full capacity, you're maybe, if we're being generous, gonna have 150 to 200 people per church. So how are you reaching the other 4,400 people? Are they off limits because of jurisdiction? Like, what is the actual problem with there being a non-denom church in the town? What is the actual issue? Like, what is it? Someone tell me, what's the issue with that? I really don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it. I think personally, that we should go for total victory. We should go for total victory at every level, and I think we should try to reach as many people as possible. And if we limit ourselves to one mainline church per town, we're never going to get that total victory. Because we're simply never going to have the means to reach everybody. You have to, that jurisdiction argument, honestly, in a certain way, kind of starts to fall into an over-rigidity, an over-rigidness that will hinder the church. Going and respecting the other churches in the area and not stepping on their toes is a good thing to do. You don't want to steal their members, honestly. But dang, man, it's a thing. I don't get it. I really don't. I guess we'll take this axe. Yeah, that's useful. It's useful. Okay, I'll take that. Yeah, that it really wasn't. And then some of the stuff, like, this is very much improvised. I don't have a script, so I'm not like, I wouldn't say that I'm, necessarily saying everything the best way or saying it in the most eloquent way possible. But yeah, I mean, take another argument, for example, authority. I think, honestly, he misrepresented a lot of non-denom churches in his argument. He was saying that there's no centralized authority, and I think maybe he just doesn't know. But there's actually there's a lot of there are inter-church organizations within the non-denominational in the non-denominational church movements, in the various groups. They're not just all isolated churches. There are actually inter-church organizations that exist in non-denominational circles that exist for the purposes of providing credentials, and oversight and accountability. Not to mention, at least some resources for churches to share. It's not like there's been no thought put into that. And these organizations often are run by a council of elders. The difference is that you're not necessarily bound to a specific denominational. You're not necessarily bound to a specific denomination's theology. There's a little bit of wiggle room on non-essentials. Obviously, the essentials of the faith, those are still there. Like you have to have those, but there is wiggle room. Like you might have churches, you might have one church that falls more in line with Baptist theology, and then another one that falls more in line with Methodist, and they're in the same interchurch organization. And that's fine. And I think that provides a flexibility that you don't find in denominations. Strengths and weaknesses to non-denominationalism. But to say that there's no centralized authority at all, or even not enough, it's like it kind of feels like there's maybe he just doesn't know. Maybe he just doesn't know that these interchurch organizations exist. But someone's got to say something about this stuff. The argument he gave that, in my opinion, holds maybe the most weight would be that non-denominational churches are schismatic, but I don't think I once again I don't agree, and I don't necessarily think it's not something. I don't think he's being malicious, but just to tell a story, like I know of a non-denom church that originally it was a Baptist church, but a long time ago it shrank quite a lot. The church got smaller and smaller until eventually it had 10 members and the pastor left. They went to the denomination, asked for a pastor, and they were told to disperse to other churches in the area and to close their doors. They decided that they were not going to do that. Instead, they decided to set themselves and fight for their church, and that they weren't going to give up on their church despite the odds. So they went to a nearby Pentecostal Bible college, one of the ones that Zoomer loves to hate, and asked for a pastor, and they provided a pastor. And today, this church has something like, I couldn't tell you exactly how many members it has, but it's probably somewhere between 100 200 people in attendance, and it runs a small local Christian school, private Christian school. They built their own new building. It's not like beautiful architecture, but it's there. It's is that schismatic? Is that schismatic? Tell me, is it schismatic to want to fight for your church and your denomination, not to retreat and to run away? Isn't that the exact kind of thing that Resumer calls for? To stand your ground? Like, I don't get it. Like, maybe he just doesn't know about those churches. I know a lot of non-denom churches aren't, the cream of the crop. You got your strip mall church, church plant that doesn't last. I know that's a thing. I've seen it. and I'm not necessarily in support of that. I think, you know, you gotta know when God's telling you to do something. And failed church plants definitely is never really a good look. If you're wondering what I'm doing in the gameplay, I'm trying to figure out where I'm gonna build my nice, cozy starter house. Because you have to have a starter house. You always have to. This is the problem. Is I can say pretty solidly that not all non-denom churches really. I wouldn't really consider them schismatic. Like the story I just told, they didn't really leave the denomination. The denomination left them, like abandoned them, and yeah, it's not necessarily always so cut and dry as schismatic or not schismatic. It's not always that simple. And it is a bit frustrating to see Zoomer talk about non-denom churches the way he does, when it's clearly just like he talks about like the straw mans of Catholicism. How is this not a straw man of non-denominationalism that he's made? That's kind of what it feels like, because it doesn't. The non-denominational church he is describing in his videos is not the non-denominational church I see most of the time. Most of the time, I see, like, you know, just most of the time, non-denominational churches are not this like strip mall church. I mean, yeah, the building's usually not very good looking, but yeah, it's not necessarily always so cut and dry as it sounds in a Zoomer video, and I'm not gonna stand for it. I'm not gonna sit here. Look at this little dude. He's interrupted my video. I'm not gonna sit around and just let this horrible misrepresentation of churches that are doing the Lord's work go. I can't, because that's what it's turned into. It's a misrepresentation of people doing the work of the Lord, and really isn't okay in my opinion. Now that said, once again, I like the mission. I like what Redeemed Zoomer is aiming to do with the Reconquista. I think that is incredible. I'm all for it. In that sense, keep it up, Zoomer. Retake the mainline churches, but now this, in some cases, it's almost slanderous how he talks about non-denom churches sometimes, and it really needs to stop, because like we could be working together on this. Instead, like that's not what I'm seeing. I'm not seeing we could be cooperating. You could be asking us to train people up to send them into the field, to send them into the mainline churches, to take them back from liberalism. That's what you could be asking of us, but instead, you know, you're saying that they're unbiblical, just flat out, and yeah, I'm not too crazy about that, honestly. I'm really not too crazy about it. It's, once again, I think it's a huge misrepresentation of non-denom churches. Again, I think it's actually going to, in the long run, work against the Reconquista if you keep talking like this. If you keep pushing, if you keep, if you keep almost falling into a hole, let's not do that. If you keep talking about non-denom churches like this, you're really, more than anything, you're going to drive away the non-denom Christians that could be working with you. And I really think, honestly, I think it's a missed opportunity. Because, the need is there. I think we absolutely should take the mainline churches. We should retake them from liberalism. I agree. Let's make it happen. But telling people without any discretion at all, who they are, if you tell people to prayerfully consider whether or not they should join a mainline church and help retake it from liberalism with that goal in mind, that's fine. But I'm not about the way he talked about non-denom churches, because I've seen, like, if non-denom churches were unbiblical, then you wouldn't, like, you'll know a tree by its fruit, like. And I see non-denom churches that actually bear fruit for the kingdom. I do see it. Not every church, but are all mainline churches bearing fruit for the kingdom right now. Now I will say, like, what I would rather with Zoomer sit down and say, hey, let's fight for both. Let's fight for the mainlines and non-denominationalism. Let's figure out a way to come to a place of understanding where the non-denom churches and the denominational churches can work together and maybe see a little bit of, like, operational unity between denominations and non-denominational churches. Because, whether or not you have organizations or not, we do all have this thing called a mouth. We can use it to talk to each other. And if people in non-denominational and denominational churches actually talk with each other, we could actually work together in our communities. And that's what I'd like to see. I wanna actually see that. It's not like I'm coming in here just to grumble about Zoomer. I like, once again, I like the actual, like, mission that he's pushing for. It is not good for what God has built to be torn down. And I do think that God built the mainline churches. He is behind them. He's the one who set that up. But I would argue that God built the non-denom churches as well. And it is not good for us to abandon them, just like it's not good for us to abandon the main lines. I hope, as I go and make videos, that maybe, eventually, some people watch them, and maybe we'll actually talk with Zoomer about this one day. It would be really cool. I would love to. Want an audience with the ceiling fan? Can I, the one who truly, we must listen to the ceiling fan, right, guys? Redeem Zoomer's ceiling fan, truly the star of the channel. But the current state of things, I'm not pleased with it. Like, Zoomer's a smart, knowledgeable guy, and well read, and I really, really think that the denominational churches could be working together, but instead he's pushing them apart. Really, when you get down to it, that's what's gonna happen if you tell everyone to leave non-denom churches. Is the actual people in the non-denom churches that are invested and devoted to their church are going to hear what he says, and they're going to be like, yeah, he's not. It's going to actually discredit him in their eyes, and yeah. But once again, I think the mission of taking back the mainline churches is good. Now, the next thing I'm going to say is I cannot leave my mainline church for Zoomer. And you might be like, aren't you saying that people should get trained up and go on mission? Yeah, but I already have my assignment. I know where I am assigned. God has me assigned to the non-denom church I'm in, which is kind of another. It's kind of a point where I think a lot of Christians actually need to change their mindset. To go from this is the place where I attend church to this is the place that God has assigned me to serve the kingdom. If people viewed their churches more like that, then maybe, just maybe, the actual denomination you're in wouldn't matter so much. Because the actual mission would be the goal. If people were more mission-minded in the church, maybe the denominations would get along a bit more, and maybe we'd actually be better off overall, just in general. Less division in the church, more unity. I'd love to see that, and I don't think we all need to be in the same denomination or the same church organization for that to exist. I think we can be in unity without that. And I think actually the diversity of different church organizations could be a good thing. Denominational, non-denominational. I think having that, many different groups could actually be good because it gives versatility to the church. And flexibility. If there's only one organization, there'd be stuff the church needs to do that definitely wouldn't get done. But yeah, we have lots of different kinds of churches, lots of different kinds of congregations. This is a fun shape. Wonder if that's the trial chamber. That would be wild. It's not a trial chamber. There's no way. Okay. Anyways. Yep. Thank you for, if you've watched even this far, thank you for coming to my Minecraft Bible ramble session. Truly been a pleasure talking and playing Minecraft. Yeah, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get myself going. I'm gonna do some off-camera mining, and next time we'll actually talk about some Bible. Why don't we? We'll talk about some Bible. So yeah, thank you for coming, and see you next time.